joined once again on the phone, Vaynant Jacobs from Family Life New Zealand. Welcome back to the show.
Kia ora.
Good morning. Kia ora, Kat. Kia ora, Tom. How's it going?
Very well, thank you. Now, I was actually thinking about some of the incredible coaching and resources that Family Life have over the weekend because my husband and I actually had a date time. Well, I was going to say date night, date day, but we had some time together and we had some difficult conversations, but we also had some fun together. We went and saw a movie. Now, we spend a lot of time talking about the serious issues, in relationships and how to do marriage well. But what about the lighter side of life, like fun and recreation? Like, how important do you think this is to a relationship, Vaynant?
Oh, yes. Good on you, first of all, Kat, that you guys are prioritizing those date nights. And, we want to get those serious conversations on the priority list and have them, right? Because they help our relationship move forward. But equally important, I wouldn't say if not more, but potentially if not more, is the fun and recreational side. Because if you think about it, that's often the way our relationships start, right? It's in the dating time, in the dating phase when we get to know one another, we do fun things together. Can you even remember that time when you would spend time thinking about how you could come up with some fun thing or some fun excuse to do something together and spend time with this other person? I'm going back to those early days. But it's interesting, the definition, I found one of the definitions in the Merriam dictionary. It says that the word recreation comes from, if you even look at that word recreate, and some of the words they use to describe it as spiritual refreshment, amusement, and listen to this, new birth. So, there's fundamentally something important to us as human beings that happens in recreational time. Some might write it off as just a waste of time or non-productive time. But in fact, prioritizing fun and recreation, it leads to sort of, new birth. And it's a deep-rooted sociological need for us as human beings.
Yeah, that's, well, look, when you think about marriage, we often talk about seasons. And the other thing is we all end up living in the mundane of day-to-day life. So I guess as we look at this journey of marriage and the relationship that we have with our spouse, what happens when one or both spouses become deprived or deprive themselves from having fun and I guess get themselves, would it be fair to say, into a bit of a rut maybe?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And, lots of seasons in marriage can actually be described or categorized as a bit of a rut if you're not intentional about, filling your relationship and filling your life with joy. Especially when you've got a young family, it's so easy to just be, grinding through all your responsibilities and not prioritize having fun together, having that recreation time.
Do you think it's fair to say that a certain amount of that you can write off and go, look, this year with a newborn is just going to be hard, but we know that it's going to get better?
There are those seasons. Where, the fun side, the things we do, like we won't go on a skiing holiday maybe with the newborn, but it's still crucially important that you find those pockets of fun and recreation, because ultimately recreation makes us more resilient, right? Two scriptures that actually come to mind is the one that talks about the joy of the Lord is my strength. Right. And, the strength is actually found in joy. So if I'm depleting all my joy stores by only giving because of the season of life, and I'm not finding those moments and those spaces of putting back through recreation and fun, I'm actually less capable of coping with the demands on my time. Another scripture, and there's been a lot of people talking about sickness and sniffles and whatnot. But, I think it was, I might be wrong on this, but either Proverbs or Psalms, but I think it's Proverbs that says, cheerful heart is like medicine, a cheerful heart. So it's crucially important that we actually prioritize fun and recreation. There's a book where it talks about this importance of joy. It's actually called A Return to Joy by Jim Wilder. But he talks about, what is it like me to be right now? In other words, how will the best version of me show up in this situation? And, joy helps us to be our best selves. And if we're deprived of it, we tend to be less resilient. We don't handle stress well. And we often become, resentful to the people in our lives who we sacrifice for. And that's true if you're married, and even more true if you're raising a family.
Yeah, and I love that reference to, you're right, it was a proverb, Proverbs 17:22. A cheerful heart is good medicine, but a crushed spirit dries up the bones. So I guess we can say that fun and recreation are really important elements of our personal and relational well-being. But how can someone, maybe listening right now, who's struggling with this, how can they take some practical steps to really prioritize this area?
Yeah, look, there's always practical steps, and it always starts with a decision that you want to prioritize it. So for those thinking that they want to look at this, I'd say do a fun audit. Think about what percentage of your week involves some fun or recreational activity.
I have to say those two words are like paradoxical, fun and audit.
I know. But hey, bear with me for a second, So, every good thing starts with a plan. Like, even the best holidays. I heard a study once that said people actually find more joy in planning their holiday than they do the actual holiday sometimes, because they would be planning this for months and months and months. And
Right.
the joy found in planning the getaway, is actually a big part of the whole experience, that anticipation of something that we're going to do together. But that aside, if you think about doing a joy audit, think about how much time do you actually spend on that in the week, fun or recreation. And then you want to also go, okay, so of that fun, how much of that do we do together? How much do we do individually? How much do we do with friends? How much do we do with family? Or how much is spent online? So if you actually look at those 5 areas, together, individually, with friends, with family, or online, you'd probably be surprised. I think for many of us, we live in an age where it's so easy to just go online when we have a space, when we have a gap. And that's not always very healthy. So if you look at that balance, you can also say, okay, what do I want that to look like? And then the next step from there, very practical, is, pick and plan something. Set yourself a timeline. Say for the next 30 days, we want to do maybe 2 fun recreational activities. And then maybe one of you organize each one of those. So assign someone, say, hey, it's your job to come up with something fun for us to do next Friday night. And then 2 Fridays from there, maybe it's, you switch roles. So depending on how much you can do, I think the goal is really being intentional and saying, hey, this is the plan, we want to do it. And, even if it's planned, it doesn't mean that makes it less fun.
Well, thank you so much, Fainan Jacobs from Family Life, talking about fun and recreation in relationships. And if you'd like to check that out, you can go to the website familylife.nz.